listen.
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
Another episode of Pitch And Moan. I am your host, Courtney Finnicum, and I am joined once again with White Sox reliever Mike Vasil. Mike, welcome back to the show. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you very much for having me back. Everything's going well and kind of settling into first week or so of the off season.
Yeah, happy off season. It seems hard to believe. I mean, I talked to you back in April, which is crazy to think about. And now here we are knee deep in postseason and the season's over. And it's just like, where did the time go, right?
I know the season's always a very interesting thing. You hit certain points where, April kind of felt like it was a year long. And then next thing you know, you're in August. And then the last week kind of feels like a whole nother year within itself. So, but it's crazy how fast it went. And to go from April all the way to now, and now it's October. And I guess already starting to get ready for next year.
And I have to say, just on a total personal level, I feel like I was one of the few people that interviewed you first thing when you joined the White Sox.
Yeah.
And now I see like all White Sox fans embracing your personality, which we'll get into a little bit. And I'm just like,
yeah.
I knew this back in April about what kind of guy Mike was. So I felt a little kinship there, right?
Yeah. Definitely a little ahead of the game there. Yeah.
Oh, see, I like that. I like being ahead of the game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you had a tremendous season with the White Sox. Your story has been talked about being a Rule 5 guy. What have your overall impressions been of your first full season in the major leagues?
Yeah, I guess now I've had a little bit of time to kind of just reflect on how the seasons went, or how it went. And, honestly, for me, it was awesome. I couldn't have asked for it to go any better. But at the same time, what I love too about, I guess, just the game of baseball is there's always going to be things that, for me personally, I'm going to try and get better at and nitpick and continue to develop. And I had some tremendous teammates from this past year, a blend of rookies and veterans, and to be able to at the end of the year talk to some of those veterans about how do you get better, continue to get better, and really being able to start off on a great note was huge for me, and especially for my career. And I feel like I'd kind of been waiting for that moment and could not be happier with how it went.
So you mentioned some of the veterans in the clubhouse. And again, there are a lot of rookies, yourself included. Who are some of the veterans that you leaned on for advice during the season?
Yeah, I think for me personally, Martin Perez is an amazing vet. To just and I know he didn't throw for a large chunk of the season, but to be able to have his presence in the locker room and just kind of around in general is so big for, I think, a young pitcher, but also a pitching staff, because I think he leads by example, and even when he wasn't playing, he was working extremely hard, trying to do everything he could to get back on the field. And when he was healthy and pitching, he did an amazing job. And I think for me to have Martin, and then for a while when we had Adrian Hauser, he was another guy that, he had a tremendous year, and I kind of known him a little bit from when his time with the Mets during spring training and everything. So to actually share a locker room with him and see him have all that success and be just such a good guy was huge. And then, more specifically in the bullpen, guys like Steve Wilson, Dan Altavilla, Tyler Alexander, there's just so many guys that, for me to be able to just kind of be myself, but also at the same time learn from them, learn, how to go about your business and the do's and don'ts, I guess, as a rookie in the big leagues, were definitely amazing things. And those are just some guys off the top of my head on the pitcher side. And, even the position player side, Andrew Benintendi, Michael A. Taylor, there's a bunch of guys that were just really, really good people and helped me out a lot.
So you mentioned some great veteran names, and Adrian Hauser has been on my show, by the way. He was excellent. So
yeah,
we even talked about his abilities to vomit on the mound that time. So we kind of had we had some fun with that. But he was great. Now you got a chance to throw to two major rookie catchers, right? Obviously,
Yeah.
Edgar Caro, Kyle Teal, and you yourself being a rookie. What was
Mhm.
sort of the preparation with the rookie catchers to get them up to speed in the big leagues that you saw?
Yeah, I think being a catcher, in my opinion, is the hardest position in baseball. Like, there's so much that you have to do and that you have going on. Like, you're the middleman of the team, really. Like, you're the guy that's supposed to bring the pitchers together with the position players, and you have to understand both sides of the ball. And for both those guys, um, to be able to learn the staff as well as they did, but also the growth with being able to still produce at the plate and also catch is, I think, something that I don't think many people are overlooking it, but like how impressive that is as a rookie in the big leagues, and to be able to understand your pitchers, and we had a bunch of guys throw for us this year, so I think for them it was really cool to throw to them, and each time kind of pick something out that they're doing better and better each time. And I don't want to say they weren't good to begin with, but better and better in terms of the pitcher, myself, and us, like kind of being on the same page, like to be able to have conversations pre-game, post-game, and talk about why did we do this, why did we throw that, talk in the dugout in between their at bats or in between the inning. Those guys are great, and they're great teammates. They're great people. They bring such a positive energy every day, and I'm just really looking forward to next year what they continue to do and how they continue to work hard and get better, and what actually is possible, considering now we have a year under our belt at the highest level of baseball, and hopefully that just continues.
And you were used in very different scenarios this year, right? You came out of the bullpen, you started a couple games, even closed a couple games, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you were kind of all over the map in the way you were used. Chris Getz recently, White Sox GM Chris Getz recently came out and said that he likes you in the reliever role. Um, what has your mindset been? Has your mindset changed with all the different roles that you've been put in? Did you have a different mindset each time, or did you go in with the same kind of thought process?
Um, I think for me, it's something I'm working on right now. Like, I think it's an off season thing you got to work on. It's like more of a mental preparation type thing. Like, there are moments where when you're going long, you might prepare differently, or like obviously the games I'd started, that was a start day that was different. I had my own starters routine, but yeah, I mean, I think it to be able to throw in a bunch of different roles, like you have to be able to stay as consistent as possible. Now, I am a human being, so I'm not going to lie. A save opportunity is probably a little more intense than going 3 innings in the middle innings. But at the same time, like our staff and our coaches are always, saying to me, like I've been told this, like we could come back and win the game. Like you can still lose the game in the fifth or the sixth inning. Like it's got to be the same guy. So I think for me to be able to stay as consistent as possible is the key. Keep my high energy, high adrenaline, and executing pitches. And it's not as crazy as people think though, because I think when you're out there in a Major League Baseball game, you're going to have adrenaline no matter what.
I
So
would,
I
I would
think
hope
for
so,
me,
right?
yeah. So for me, it wasn't that difficult, and my goal for the year was to just pitch well in general. So I think for me, any opportunity I had to go out there on the mound and perform and help my team in whatever capacity is really all I cared about. So that was really the goal, and moving forward will continue to be the goal in whatever role or what that looks like. That's really the only thing that matters to me is producing, getting outs, throwing up zeros, and helping the team win the game.
So we mentioned a little bit about some of the young core coming together within the White Sox team, which has been incredibly great to see, obviously. The White Sox this offseason already has made some coaching changes.
Mhm.
One of the changes being your pitching coach, Ethan Katz, no longer with the organization. Do you, as a pitcher, and again, as a young pitcher, is this a move that you're maybe sweating a little bit? Is pitching coach, how important is a pitching coach to your success?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that for me, I'm sweating it. Like, I think also another thing is coming up as a minor league guy. typically kind of have a different pitching coach every year. So I've had a bunch throughout my career, and for me, he's such a great person. He cares about me a lot. I feel we have a good relationship, and I couldn't have asked for a better guy to kind of help me out in my rookie season. But for me to say I'm sweating something or this, that, or the other thing, it would kind of just be untrue, because I think now in today's day and age of pitching there's so many great pitching minds, and I've had a number of different pitching coaches in my career, and there's so many different ways to approach pitching and philosophy and mechanics and everything that um, for me going into next year and whoever fulfills that role, I'm looking forward to it, because I just love pitching in general. I love the game of baseball, so I think for me, the more knowledge I can have and talk to people and see the game in a different way, the better. So, but overall, a pitching coach is very important for staff, for guys. They're the person that kind of keeps you in the middle. They don't let you get too high of high or too low of low, and they're there for you when you need them. And that's the exact relationship I had with Cats and every former pitching coach I've had. So they're kind of like your best buddy when it comes to you being out there on the mound and helping you out and caring about you a lot in season. They're almost like your in season father figure out there. So.
I've actually kind of heard that a pitching coach is almost like your hype man, right? Like he goes out
Yeah.
there just to kind of hype you up. And like you said, that father figure, during the season. I think and it seems like Cats did a really nice job of that with the staff. So, but, moving forward, like you said, you've had a lot of different pitching coaches. So,
Yep.
that's really your focus, is to continue doing what you're doing and continue building on your success, right? I mean, that's your focus.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another thing I've learned too is, especially once you get to the big league level, I don't. I feel every guy, every player or pitcher I play with, they all know their plan. They all have their individual plan. Um, and with the way pitching is developing, I can say this, that there's been so many different trends that have come out about like the new pitching wave. And I'm sure there'll be more stuff, but I think for each guy individually, especially on our team as well, like every guy knows what they do really well. Every time they're going to go out there and take them out, nobody's going to try something new or do stuff, but everyone's going to try and get better every day. But every guy has their plan. So I feel comfortable and confident in my plan, and what I'm going to go out there and do is going to be pretty consistent from year to year in terms of the baseline stuff. Some stuff might change to make my overall arsenal or pitching better, but it's not going to be some drastic, massive change, at least as of right now that I see it.
So that's a really good point. I mean, you mentioned again, and we talked about this back in April. Your story is well known now, bouncing around from the Mets to the Rays and now finally to the White Sox. What was it about the White Sox organization that has made you have success at the major league level rather than success at the minor league level?
Yeah, I think one of the first things that I really liked coming in was that they kind of just let me go out there and just pitch at first. Like it was a very unique situation. So coming in basically on opening day without a spring training is different. But I think
Yes.
what they did really well is once they kind of pointed out my strengths, which kind of followed along with what I knew were my strengths as well. Like we really rode those the rest of the year, like my sinker or my sweeper or whatever it was, and in terms of like getting scouting reports and the way I would pitch, it was really cool to kind of be on the same page as a staff and coaches and everything. And I think whenever I needed help, there were certain times throughout the year where a pitch isn't doing what it's supposed to do, or the grip just feels off. Like I had resources to go in and look at it and look at the video and kind of figure it out, and like to be able to go into the field knowing that there's ways to make yourself kind of get back on track or even get better is like a huge feeling. You never really feel lost. I remember a certain outing, I think it was against Sacramento at home, and my sinker was like cutting and doing all this stuff, and I was like, hey, can I have access to the Edgertronic cameras in the stadium, which are like super high def slow mo cameras. And within the next couple days, my sinker was back to normal and it felt great. So like just stuff like that to be able, and it's little stuff, like it's a pitch grip, but it goes a long way. So I think for me, them just allowing me to kind of pitch at first, figure out my strengths, and then just supporting me the entire way, the entire rest of the season, and just kind of letting me do my thing.
And I think we saw that. I mean, you really did just kind of do your thing on the mound. And
Yeah.
I mean, the fans really did embrace your personality. And I do have to ask because this kind of got this got some leeway when this came out. You keep a Batman mask in your locker. Is this the story that's going around?
Yes, that is true. I do keep a Batman mask in my locker. Yeah. And it may travel with me from city to city as well. Yeah.
So did you bring it on every single road trip?
I did. I would actually pack my bag in a specific way where the last thing to go in the bag was the mask. So whatever visiting clubhouse guys open up my bag, the first thing you'd see would be the Batman mask. So yeah, I would travel with it everywhere.
So, I mean, I have to ask, how did this start and why did it start, most importantly?
So yeah, I remember it was against the Marlins. We were at home, and I remember I was working through some like mechanical things just to have like another like tick or two on my heater. Like there were certain times early in the year where I'd be like hovering around 95, and then a couple outings I'd be more 93, 94. So I was like, all right, like you sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the most out of yourself. And I remember I'd been watching the Dark Knight movies, which I love, the Dark Knight trilogy, and I was out there and I was like, you just got to, literally in my head I'm telling myself, I was like, you just got to turn into the Batman, you just got to be the Batman. So next thing I know, I like start throwing harder and harder, and I came in the dugout. And afterwards, like I told the coaches, I was like, no, I literally was out there. I was calling myself the Batman, and they loved it because they were like, yeah, whatever it takes, like
Whatever it takes. Yes.
whatever it takes, get into that mode, like that next level kind of locked in state of mind. And then a few days after that, my buddy Jordan Leisure actually bought me the Batman mask, and it was hanging in my locker. And I was doing a interview at my locker another time post game, and Katz would walk by, and he'd be like, and he said, "Hey, Batman," and then from there, the rest of everyone, the media kind of heard that, and then it just kind of took off, and then it became the Batman. Yeah.
So, as a lot of people know, and I've had podcast interviews about this before, baseball players are weirdly superstitious, right? Do you consider
Yes.
yourself okay?
Yes, extremely. Yeah.
So you knew as soon as you had success with this Batman gimmick, you had to ride the wave with it, obviously, right?
Yeah, 100%. And like there's another part to being out there and competing. Like when guys say they're out there and they like black out and like they don't really remember
Yeah.
much, like that is the truth. Like so there have been moments where like I went out there and I had an outing and it like went really well and I don't really remember much from it because you get into this state of like zen almost with like extremely high energy, and you just go, and like it's like your reflexes kind of take over, and like that's what I call kind of like my Batman mode. Like you just go to a different place. So
Well, you had that Batman mode against the Yankees when you closed out that game,
yeah.
right?
Yes, that was full blown Batman. Yeah.
I mean, that was tremendous, and fans love that. I mean, remember, obviously, you know the history here. White Sox lost 121 games last season, right?
Mhm.
And having this group of guys, yourself included, come up and really, want to win and want to do the right things has been just a really cool thing for Sox fans to see. So Sox fans embrace that. They love that stuff, So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
100%.
So we are knee deep in the postseason now. Obviously, we are in the divisional rounds currently. I certainly want to ask your take on a couple of things that have come up in this postseason so far. One that has something to do with a Baseball America article that came out last week. And it really basically said that in order to have a long career as a pitcher, you have to start throwing hard. Now, we've certainly seen that with Mason Miller and Miz in Milwaukee. I've always thought that if you throw extremely hard, that you have a risk to get an injury potentially, right? You're at more of a higher risk to
Yeah.
get an injury. So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like there's a pressure for you to throw harder? I mean, what are your thoughts on that moving forward in your career?
Well, I think for to start, for any pitcher, like we all want to throw hard. Like it's pretty. You give yourself more room for error. Um, no hitter wants to face an electric fastball, but I think in today's day and age of baseball, now velo is more viewed as something to just like kind of get on the map. Like the days of guys I feel like that are like low 90s and can really pitch, it might take them a little bit longer to get on the map or get noticed compared to, some of these guys now at high school or in college just light up the radar gun and then from there like people make a really big deal out of them. I don't I don't feel that you need to throw, whatever it is, X miles an hour to have a long career. But every guy right now, I feel if you look at them and maybe they're a veteran and they have a lot of service time. At one point in their career, they did throw harder, but they also really knew how to pitch. So now as they're getting older, they might still have that in the tank, um, but they really know how to pitch and they're established. So I think that's one of the key things here is like there's guys that might not throw very hard, but have a lot of time and continue to get jobs because they're really great pitchers and they're established as that, and people know that. Compared to maybe a younger guy who can really pitch but it's harder for him to get his shot because the velocity isn't there. So I think it's such a fine line between, what is velo, but I also think in today's day and age, like nobody really teaches pitching anymore.
You're
Like
right.
in 2024 really is the first year I really honed in on like sequencing, reading swings, reading at bats, and like I thought I knew that stuff, but like I really didn't. So I think there needs to be more of an emphasis on actually teaching guys how to pitch and maybe move mechanically better and like what's best for them and making the best version of themselves, like what they can physically do compared to a guy going out there and like just hurting himself every outing, trying to
Right.
throw as hard as possible. But now it's like become such a big thing. It's hard to even get out of that cycle because if you're not throwing 95 plus in low A, and punching out two guys an inning, it's getting really hard to even get the attention of the people to promote you compared to if you're sitting 91 and you're really, really pitching well. Like the guy that's sitting 95, he's probably going to get a shot before you just based off a number, which I don't agree with, but that's just where the game's at right now.
And I actually fully agree with that. And, just kind of on that same note, how much do you think analytics is causing this new trend of, velo and throwing as hard as you possibly can? I mean, do you think that plays a factor?
Yeah, I think so because everything now is graded on like a stuff
Yes.
model, and I do think stuff is important, like 100%. Like you want to have good stuff, because that's how you get guys out. But like, what is good stuff, and like, how does that look like for you and your arsenal? That's what I think is most important. Like, how does your arsenal tie together? Like, and some guys look. So there are guys out there in the game who have a two pitch mix and they don't throw very hard, but one of their sweeper, their slider is like an outlier and they throw it a lot, which I think is fine. Like that's just part of what they do. Um, but I think in terms of analytically, I think it impacts a lot. I do because it's either a lot of stuff is expected now, a lot of stuff is like weighted differently compared to like what actually happened. What's like a true outcome. Like I'm more of a guy when it comes to like analytics, more like process based stuff. So it's like
Yes.
first pitch strike, getting to 2 out of 3, getting 2 strikes within the first 3 pitches. Like that stuff's like yes, it's charted and it's a percentage, but it's not a computer system. Like that stuff really matters. Um, but at the same time, I think there are some analytical columns and stuff like that that have value. They can tell you, if you're playing in, for example, like this past year, it's Steinbrenner, like the ball's flying
Yes.
there. And if you're
Yep.
giving up a lot of like 80 something mile per hour fly ball homers, like in reality at probably 28, 29 other ballparks in the country, you're not giving up those homers. So there's certain stuff like that where you can see it, but I do think some of the stuff is probably getting a little over the top now.
It is so refreshing to hear a young pitcher, a young player in general, sort of push back on this because I feel like, obviously lighting up the radar gun, that's going to get you a lot of clicks on social media, right? And people love to
Yeah.
see the 104 mile per hour, fastball. And I get it, but I'm on board with you. I think having good stuff is really going to still set you apart in the big leagues, in my personal opinion. Truly.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
So again, your first full year in the big leagues, obviously. We're seeing a lot of good postseason teams in the playoffs. Obviously, Toronto, who won the AL East, which gave me a thrill. I thought that was great for them. Obviously, the Yankees, Cubs, Brewers, certainly the Dodgers. You faced a good chunk of these teams. Who, in your opinion, really stood out to you as being a tough out hitter wise?
Well, the first one off the top of my head is pretty easy. Aaron Judge is
Yes.
just he's a monster. He's to get in the box. He's a really really big guy, and obviously he can hit a homer off you at any second. But I think what was more impressive about facing him wasn't the fact that he's a threat to go deep, but like his discipline and just his. I couldn't really read his body language at all. Like there wasn't any like budges to chase or do that. Like he's so honed in on like what his zone is, and he's not going to get out of it. I remember facing him the first time. I was like, yeah, that's this is what an MVP looks like at the plate. Like
That's
this
a professional
is tough.
hitter.
Yeah, like you're trying to like I'm throwing my best put away stuff, and like I'm not even getting a budge. I'm like, all right, like you got to really lock in for this. Obviously in Cal Raleigh in Seattle, like just the season he's had is just unbelievable, and anytime it felt like he was up at the plate this year, it was you felt like you were about to be a part of his historic run.
Absolutely.
He was that hot. And I think honestly, Detroit's lineup as a whole is just they're so gritty. Like you can never count them out. Like there's so many guys top to bottom, and even bench fats that they plug in there that it's tough for you to kind of navigate through that lineup just because of how they operate. Like there's just so many guys in that lineup that can, work an 8-pitch at bat and then flip a single to left or right. Or they can, hit a double in the gap. So I think that lineup as a whole, for whatever reason, for me was just more tough in terms of like you felt like you were really working when you were facing them. But as a whole, like if you're a playoff team and you're in the playoffs right now, and we face every single one of those teams, like you kind of knew throughout the season, like this lineup's just a little bit different. Like there's something here that these guys, these at bats they're putting together are pretty good, and they kind of know how to get the job done. So
you mentioned pitching to Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge. Can I put you on the spot and ask you who the if you had a vote, who the MVP would be?
Oh boy.
I know, I'm putting you right on the spot.
Yeah, like the thing is
and there's no wrong answer, right? There
no,
really isn't.
yeah, like they both. For me right now, it has to be. I think it's more because I'm a pitcher. Like
Yeah.
I'm going with Cal Raleigh because, like I said before, like catching is such a hard position, and he catches every day.
Every day.
And to be able to go out and do what he's done offensively is just different. Like, I don't think, and not to, Aaron Judge has also, had another crazy year.
Absolutely.
But I think for what he's meant to that team and that lineup, and like when we face Seattle, like what he meant to that lineup kind of going through is like, that's a huge difference maker, and I think where now, maybe compared to the Yankees lineup a little bit, like there's a lot of guys in there that can make a difference, but like Cal Raleigh really, really impacted that lineup. Like
Absolutely.
he made a huge difference this year for Seattle. And, so for me right now, it's Raleigh.
And now you're going to get a bunch of angry Yankee fans on social media.
I know. Probably. It's all right. It happens.
It does happen, unfortunately, yes. Again, Mike, one more question for you. I always appreciate your time. You're always Always very interesting to talk to you about pitching and life and sports. It's great. What are your goals going into the 2026 season? Obviously, the off season has just started, but what are some of your goals going into next season?
Yeah, I think for me, it's pretty simple. Like last year, my goal was just to pitch well. Like that's
Right.
what makes me most happy. So I think for me, um, again, like continue to go in the season and pitch well. But like in terms of goals, like I want to be able to train my body to quite frankly like pitch more or like more innings. I want to be able to like provide that for my team because I kind of saw it now for the first time. A major league season is a long year.
Yes, it
And
is.
and you need a lot of guys to be able to pick up the slack, whether it be 2 to 3 innings here or there, and I want to be able to really do kind of what I did last year, but at a higher capacity and make myself available for the team to be able to win and pitch. And so I think that's a big goal of mine. And then there's other smaller baseball stuff like I want to be able to clean up, like my walk rate or first pitch strikes and certain things like that, and hone in on command a little bit more. But like the greater goals are like be able to be in the best possible pitching shape I can be in for next year. And like look, we made a tremendous jump from 24 into 25, and I think this group is really special. And I think, I'm not going to sit here and say we're going to go out and do the craziest thing of all time, but I think this group can probably shock a lot of people around the game, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I want to be able to do whatever I can to make that happen.
Well, and let's be honest, with the third wild card spot that's going on in the playoffs now, why can't the White Sox make a jump
Yeah,
and be
I
right in the
know.
middle of that, you know?
I know. And like kind of at the end of the year, um, I can't remember if it was 86 wins that it took to win the division. And,
Yes,
like I think the Central is a tough division. Like it's a lot of very, very competitive teams.
it
But
is.
I think what I'm really looking forward to for next year is, and what people probably saw is in the second half, like we went into Detroit and won a series. We were starting to beat teams that maybe earlier in the year we kind of like just didn't have the experience. And then once we kind of started to learn how to win, it's like next year now when we come out, we can all say, "Oh, been there, done that before." Like we've had comeback wins, we've had this, we've had that, we've swept teams on the road. Like we've done this stuff now. So now for heading into next year and getting off on the right foot, like I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Well, I can tell you, I can speak for most Sox fans when we say that we're very happy that you are part of this core now,
Yeah,
and we are certainly looking forward to seeing this team continue to grow and you continue to grow. So that's been
yep,
amazing. So
100%. Thank you.
I always appreciate having you on, Mike. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing your career continue to grow in 2026.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Appreciate it.